I really didn't think we'd be talking about Nazis this early in his presidency, but here we are. You have my permission to send this to any angry family member who's trying to call this a Roman salute or whatever the fuck they're saying it is. Hello, ladies, men, and non-binary friends. Welcome back. My name is Scully, and today we're talking about anti-Semitism. We really hit all the super fun topics on this show, don't we? First of all, I can't believe we're even having this conversation. I thought I was going insane when I was hearing some of the coverage of this event online. Even PBS News said that Elon Musk appeared to give a fascist salute. I'm sorry, appeared? I need journalists to be braver than this over the next 4 years. I'm sorry. Especially the ones we hold in high regard. Like, Mr. Rogers is rolling in his grave right now, PBS. His grave. Now, just to get this out of the way, just super quick. Visually, this is a Nazi salute. This is throwing your heart out. This is a Nazi salute. And thankfully, despite the lukewarm coverage of this from mainstream media outlets, many people online from all parts of the world have been outspoken about how this is fucking unacceptable. Here in Australia, it was blurred on our news. Blurred. It's illegal in our country and you face 12 months of jail time. Literally, if he was in Europe, he'd be arrested. Not even sneakily, the audience cheered. I'm only joking. Unless energy. It's like Schrodinger's joke, where it's only a joke if people get offended. Agree with you. It's boundary testing. It's called moving the Overton window. God, I hope this gets a blue comment. A lot of people need to learn this. They're like kids seeing how far they can go before getting in trouble. I love how his fans defend it, but no one can recreate it and post a video. Yeah, it's literally illegal here in Australia. They blurred it on TV in Australia. It was a salute. We live in a world where we watch a man twice do the Hitler salute and half the population will say that's not what he watched. People, stop killing Gazan children. ADL. Anti-Semite. Elon, literal World War II salute. ADL. Aw, he's just excited. Germany here, I've got a bad feeling about this. He's the smartest man in the world, but he doesn't know the connotation of that action? Please. It wasn't just a salute, it was a hard, stiff salute. It definitely wasn't an oopsie. German here, and the second I saw it, my stomach dropped so hard, I'm sick. As a German woman, I'm terrified. Like, we have a textbook handwritten about this. I can't fathom. My mom's side is Polish and German. When I showed her the video of him doing that, she said, I am so glad my mom didn't live to see this. My grandma would have cried. As a Dutch woman whose grandfather died in a camp, this is so bad. Austria here, I'm honestly so shocked. What the hell? Germany here, first time I didn't believe what I saw. Now I'm just scared of whatever will happen next. When the Germans are telling you what it is, it's over, in my opinion. I'm far more inclined to trust them. They had to blur it in Australia. Also, people infantilizing Elon, saying that he was just being a little autistic, is not only just deeply insulting to every autistic person on the planet, but every time I've seen this argument, it's always funny enough coming from someone who's not autistic. Like, you are not the authority here, bitch. But this is also the same group that calls this guy a genius. So, like, which is it? Is he a genius? Because a genius would know what this is and denounce it, whether he was autistic or not. As of filming this video, Elon Musk has yet to deny this and say that it wasn't a Nazi salute. He has yet to deny it.
Did you see? Yeah, Elon Musk on stage, where he basically he slapped his chest and then he did a full. I mean, they say it's not a Nazi salute. He's just on the spectrum. That's what they're saying. I guess everyone in 1940s Germany was just autistic, and that's. But yeah, that's what they're trying to pin it. They're saying, "Oh no, you're being ableist. He's just autistic." And it's like I don't mind that he's into trains. I'm bothered by which ones.
And before we get further into this, I really feel like we need to establish something. In most cases, a Nazi is not going to up and tell you that they are a Nazi. In most cases. Because being a Nazi is currently socially unfavorable, right? Like, if you say that shit now, it can get you fired from a job, it can lead to your friends and family ostracizing you, abandoning you. History is certainly not on your side. But nevertheless, Nazis and neo-Nazis continue to exist in the year of our Lord 2025. Throw a digital stone on Twitter and you hit 30 of them. But again, they will rarely just tell you, hey, I'm a Nazi. Like, that's not gonna happen. Can't wait for that to be clipped out of context. We have to use our critical thinking skills. We have to educate ourselves. What are the dog whistles? What are the things that are said in the unsaid? What are the typical talking points of Nazis online? What is the pipeline? How do they get people to justify such a morally reprehensible cause? And how do they get around being outed by us? And the answer is simple, really. They are relying on you handling yourself with decorum and grace. They are relying on you giving them the benefit of the doubt. Over the past 10 years in this country, Nazis and neo-Nazis have been testing the boundaries and seeing what gets pushed back and what does not. What is culturally acceptable within their belief system and behaviors and what is not. And it has gotten progressively worse the further and further they have pushed. It's giving that high school bully who knows how to push your buttons and says that thing that seems innocuous but cuts you really deep. Then you understandably get angry and they say, "Whoa, why are you freaking out? Why are you getting mad?" Because they know. They know why you're upset. That was the reason why they said it. They do just enough to piss you off without getting in trouble. I'm sure we can all relate to that experience. Hopefully not everyone is like cringing in their chairs right now. I'm not suggesting you conduct a witch hunt and go online and call everyone a Nazi, but rather look at the signs, look at what is in front of you, look at what has happened in our history, and think critically. You have to be able to recognize what Nazis look like in their rebrand era. Look at the Nazi platform of the 1940s. Who shares those similar views to now? What do Nazis look like in 2025? Now, the term neo-Nazism describes any post-World War II militant, social, or political movements seeking to revive the ideology of Nazism in whole or in part. The term neo-Nazism can also refer to the ideology of these movements, which may borrow elements from Nazi doctrine, including ultranationalism, anti-communism, racism, ableism, xenophobia, homophobia, anti-Semitism, up to initiating the Fourth Reich. Holocaust denial is a common feature, as is the incorporation of Nazi symbols in admiration of Adolf Hitler. Neo-Nazism is considered a particular form of far-right politics and right-wing extremism. There's a lot of anti-immigrant rhetoric in neo-Nazi circles. Anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. Anti-DEI and white supremacy shit. These are movements that have become very familiar in American politics, all of which have been repeated sentiments of one Elon Musk. Which brings us to the next part of this video. Elon has been using his money and power to bolster alt-right politics across Europe, including neo-Nazi parties and candidates. He's supported alt-right political parties in Germany and the UK. He's platformed their conversations on Twitter, where he had a conversation with Alice Waddell of the AfD, the alt-right German party. This is a political party whose views have been described as anti-immigrant, nationalist, and deeply Eurosceptic. And, fun fact, I guess not so fun fact, is the first far-right party to come to power since the Nazis, so yeah, no comparisons to be drawn there. Amy Spidlnick, CEO of the Jewish Council for Public Affairs, released a statement on the gesture saying, quote, "Elon Musk knows precisely what he was doing with his fascist Roman salute at today's Trump rally, which follows his explicit embrace of far-right parties and policies." Spidlnick went on to reference Musk's support for the Alternative for Germany Party, a far-right political organization that looks set to make major gains in upcoming German polls. Spidlnick said, quote, "If you're surprised, you haven't been paying attention. We know precisely where this extremist behavior leads, normalizing and emboldening avowed neo-Nazis and white supremacists who take this as a stamp of approval for their targeting of Jews, immigrants, people of color, and so many others." This is what the Chancellor of Germany had to say about this political party. "All democratic parties are now called upon to form stable governments without right-wing extremists," Scholz said in a statement. "Our country cannot and must not get used to this. The AfD is damaging Germany. It is weakening the economy, dividing society, and ruining our country's reputation." Elon Musk recently made a speech at one of their events. This was after the salute situation. I'm sure some of you have already heard about this. Elon Musk made a surprise video link appearance at a campaign event for Germany's far-right Alternative for Germany party on Saturday, during which he told the crowd of around 4,500 AfD supporters that, quote, "Children should not be guilty of the sins of their parents, let alone their great-grandparents," in an apparent reference to Nazi Germany just 2 days before Holocaust Remembrance Day. The AfD, which Musk has previously voiced his support for, has been labeled a suspected extremist organization by Germany's National Security Services. "There is too much focus on past guilt, and we need to move beyond that," Musk said, adding that he considered the anti-immigration, anti-cultural integration party, quote, "the best hope for Germany." "It's good to be proud of German culture, German values, and not to lose that in some sort of multiculturalism that dilutes everything," said Musk, who has become a close ally and advisor to President Trump. So let's just unpack this for a quick second, if you don't mind. Because, sure, children should not be guilty for the sins of their ancestors. I can get behind that in some circumstances, right? But this sentiment has been used to minimize previous tragedies and genocides by groups in power that are still in power. For example, I hear this a lot when people talk about slavery in the US. However, Black Americans are still suffering from the impacts of slavery in the year 2025. Black people are less likely to be approved for housing. They're more likely to be shot by police, etc., etc. And I think you can and should feel some guilt for the lives lost because there's still a tragic loss from the world. I think it's appropriate to feel guilt at such an enormous loss. My ancestors weren't Nazis, but when I hear about the Holocaust, there's still guilt and grief that I feel because this was a tragic point in history. I think that that's normal for tragedies of that scale. But the biggest problem that I have with this entire addition to his speech is that you're saying this to the party that is supporting and starting to do the same things that the Nazis stood for. I mean, I feel like if there's anyone that should be feeling guilt, it's probably this group, if I'm gonna be real with you. This party is focused on, quote, anti-cultural integration, keeping pure the German culture, so to speak. Elon said himself during the speech, it's good to be proud of German culture. I'm not saying it's not good to be proud of German culture, just to be clear. It's good to be proud of German culture, German values, and not lose that in some sort of multiculturalism that dilutes everything. This is what I mean when I say think critically. That's why we had a nice little study session before this section, right? When you're talking about cultural dilution, those are the words used. The other side of the coin is cultural purity, right? That's what they're in favor of. But purity obviously has very negative connotations throughout history. You know, like cultural purity, blood purity, racial purity. These are all terms that have been used to justify segregation, discrimination, and genocide all around the world, including the Holocaust. But Elon Musk probably isn't going to say, I support blood purity, I support cultural purity. He's going to say that he's against cultural dilution. And I see this with commentators like Ben Shapiro too, where he will say one thing that like is either universally agreed upon or true. So like for example, saying that like it's a good thing to value German culture, right? That's the thing that Musk said. I don't think anyone's arguing against that. But then they sort of sprinkle in this far right sentiment to further radicalize their audience, or they will send out dog whistles to those who are already radicalized. Because if you agree with most of the sentiment, even if you feel a little pushback on some of the other things that they're saying, you're probably still going to tune in because they've reached you at the middle ground first. Now that we have a little background, we're going to dive into the fatty meat of this video and talk about the anti-Semitism on Elon's Twitter. I know, but we have to. Before that, we're going to hear a word from our sponsor. I, for one, am not confident in my government's ability to protect our data. Over the past 10 years, data breaches have steadily increased, and according to the Interstate Technology and Regulatory Council, there were 6 mega breaches in 2024, with at least 100 million victims affected. And each data breach just makes additional data breaches more likely. When hackers steal personal information, they can use that information to get into other companies' systems and launch even more data breaches. And most of the time, these organizations are not held responsible financially for their negligence. I'm sure you're all aware of the National Public Data breach that led to pretty much every American social security number being posted online, which is terrifying. My credit card was actually hacked during this breach, and I was literally looking for some kind of software to protect me from breaches like this in the future. I've talked about this before, but I work 2 jobs, and the only one who should be spending my money is me. Aura reached out, and I tried their product, and it has way more features than I expected. They have your real-time credit score. They can freeze your credit so no one can open a credit card in your name without you knowing. They can see if any of your email and passwords have been leaked on the dark web. They have real-time alerts if your data has been compromised, including your bank accounts. Aura scanned my entire computer of hundreds of thousands of files. And now for anything I download in the future, Aura is going to auto-scan for viruses and malware. They'll also contact data brokers for you to stop them from selling your information. And there's a lot more, but I'll let you find it out for yourself. Go to aura.com/happypancake to try Aura 2 weeks for free. And that will give you plenty of time to check out Aura to see if your personal data has been exposed. Stop leaving yourself open to data breaches. Click the link in my description for a 14-day free trial. Thank you to Aura for sponsoring this video, and thank you to you for giving it a try. If you'd like to support my channel and help me continue what I do here, this is the best way to support me. Now back to the video. Settle in, because this Twitter section is a long one. And frankly, I'm shocked that more people don't know about Elon's history of anti-Semitism. Many of you had no idea when I asked about this on my community page, but that's about to change. Let's start with the pro-Nazi accounts on Twitter. When Elon Musk bought Twitter, one of the first things he did was bring back anti-Semitic talking heads like Nick Fuentes, conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, and Kanye West, who has regularly and proudly shared his anti-Semitic views, along with thousands of pro-Nazi accounts throughout the world. Despite saying that X would be dedicated to fighting hate speech, Elon has allowed this content to continue to thrive on his platform. I'm convinced the only reason he made this promise was to appease advertisers, and even they caught up with his bullshit eventually. Elon Musk's X is a thriving hub for Nazi support and propaganda, with paid subscribers sharing speeches by Adolf Hitler or content praising his genocidal regime. NBC News found that at least 150 paid premium subscriber X accounts and thousands of unpaid accounts have posted or amplified pro-Nazi content on X in recent months, often in apparent violation of X's rules. The paid accounts posting the content all consistently posted anti-Semitic or pro-Nazi materials. Examples include praise of Nazi soldiers, sharing of Nazi symbols, and denials of the Holocaust. The pro-Nazi content is not confined to the fringes of the platform. During one 7-day period in March, 7 of the most widely shared pro-Nazi posts on X accrued 4.5 million views in total. One post with 1.9 million views promoted a false and long-debunked conspiracy theory that 6 million Jews did not die in the Holocaust. More than 5,300 verified and unverified accounts reshared that post, and other popular posts were reshared hundreds of times apiece. The findings are the latest evidence of a flourishing Nazi network on X under Musk's ownership. Previous investigations by news organizations and anti-hate watchdogs have documented many examples of anti-Semitism, white supremacy, and support for Nazism on X. And some of you might be saying, well, he's against censorship. He just loves free speech. And first I would say, ew, free speech doesn't apply to Nazis, you fucking moron. And second, he had absolutely no problem suspending accounts and stifling other people's free speech. For example, the journalists and comedians that publicly critiqued him or criticized his platform. In fact, account suspensions have actually skyrocketed since Elon bought the platform. I guess it doesn't count as free speech if you hurt little Elon's feelings. There's literally a Wikipedia page. I found this while researching. There's literally a Wikipedia page dedicated to Twitter suspensions Elon made on December 15th, 2022, when he banned these journalists from this platform. But right, something free speech. One of these far-right accounts that Elon brought back was that of Martin Sellner. He's from Austria and associated with a terrorist attack. Yeah. He replied to this guy's tweet after his speech was shut down by Swiss police for, oh gosh, who knows what, maybe hate speech and violent rhetoric? Also bold of you to do this in Switzerland, dude. After Sellner posted a video related to Swiss police shutting down an event he was speaking at in the Swiss canton of Aargau and stating he had been banned from Aargau for 2 months, Musk replied, is this legal? Last month, it was reported Germany was considering banning Sellner from entry to the country. Dr. Josh Roos, an expert in extremism at Deakin University, said Sellner's account is the latest in a long line of far-right accounts, including the leader of the National Socialist Network in Australia, being allowed back on X under Musk. Coincidentally, all of them, in some way, shape, or form, interacted with Brenton, he said. Now that these groups have come back, and since they've been allowed back on the platform, they all follow each other's accounts and they've linked internationally. So that's also enabled the movement to build links and build contacts. And that's really it, isn't it? Like, it's not just about posting these things on a public platform. It's not just about, like, radicalizing people that maybe aren't involved. It's about these horrible, horrible people being able to find each other and connect with each other and organize. Like, that is the shit that is ultimately the most troubling. Next, let's talk about Elon retweeting Nazi sentiment. Elon Musk got into a lot of trouble after retweeting an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory and calling it, quote, the actual truth. It's the Great Replacement Theory, for those of you that don't know already. This is the same conspiracy theory that motivated the anti-Semitic terrorists that killed 11 people in that synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Some of you might not be very familiar with this. What does the second paragraph even mean? The second paragraph is an anti-Semitic theory that has been around for a very long time. Originally, the fascist movements, the Nazi movement used it. The idea was first popularized by the Nazi movement in Germany that Western countries, Western supremacist nations that are otherwise comprised of white people are purposely being diluted with barbaric hordes, and Jews are the ones who are pushing this, okay? But the most modern example of this is called the Great Replacement Theory, okay? Tucker Carlson promotes it on his broadcast regularly. The idea that Jews, and they often say George Soros does this with the Open Societies Foundation, try to bring in immigrants into the country to dilute the white purity because they are evil, and it's good to have a white majority nation that is pure. And it, of course, has like a lot of these other false premises that like brown and black people are lesser, inferior, lower IQ, and Jews are doing that to destroy the Western civilization. Why are they doing that? No reason, really, just because they're evil, and you have to believe me. That's basically, unironically, the heart of the Great Replacement Theory, and this guy is explaining it. That's why he's saying, I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest now about Western Jewish populations coming to the disturbing realization that those hordes of minorities that support flooding their country don't exactly like them too much. So what he's saying here is like, you Jews brought the minorities into this country, the hordes of minorities into this country, because you wanted to destroy the country, but those hordes of minorities who are barbaric also, you know, they hate you as well. They're anti-Semitic, and you did this. You did this to yourself. He maxed out on the racism stats is what I mean. Like, he literally maxed out on the racism stats, to which Elon replied with, You have said the actual truth.
This is ultimately what led to advertisers like Disney, Apple, IBM, and Sony pulling out of the platform. Let's talk about the Mel Gibson tweet. I can't believe I'm talking about Mel Gibson in 2025. Elon responded to another anti-Semitic tweet. This little chestnut was talking about how you can get a Mel Gibson body and all you have to do is hate Jewish people. Elon literally doing anything but removing these people from the platform. On Wednesday, Musk commented on a tweet from a user named Top Lobster that juxtaposed 80-year-old Joe Biden appearing to be asleep on a chair at the White House and 67-year-old Oscar winner and Jew hater Mel Gibson in a muscle shirt. The caption, not so subtly, alluded to a raft of conspiratorial canards presented as lifestyle choices. You can do adrenochrome or you can hate the Jays. Which way, Western man? Rather than react to the conspiracy theory that our president subsists on blood from children, or that hating JS's Jews is somehow salubrious, never mind the name drop of a 1978 white nationalist text, which way, Western man, Musk asked a question. Gibson is really that buff these days? Wow, really cracking down on anti-Semitism, huh, Elon? Great work. Great work, man. The person that wrote this article actually had an amazing quote. The choice is his, but if hating Jews is the key to a Charles Atlas body, Twitter would look a lot more like Muscle Beach. And I agree. Oh yeah, he also compared a Holocaust survivor to Magneto in like the worst way possible. Now, criticizing a Jewish person that shares different beliefs than you is not inherently anti-Semitic, okay? But comparing a Holocaust survivor to one of the most famous Jewish characters in fiction, who is famously evil, like does notoriously evil things. Yeah, dude, that's anti-Semitic. I really didn't think we'd have to explain that one, but here we fucking are. Soros reminds me of Magneto. Then he clarified to another user, just in case you weren't super sure, you assume they are good intentions. They are not. He wants to erode the very fabric of civilization. Soros hates humanity. Being an Elon fanboy must be like a full-time job in deflection and defense. I don't think I could. I mean, I'm a fandom girly, and I don't even think I would have the strength. And despite all of this, Musk has gone on record saying that anti-Semitism is actually not a problem on X. I mean, yeah, I guess it's not a problem if you're a fucking participant. Also, I have to say, before we move on, I can't ever imagine having this many close calls with right-wing extremists and literal Nazis on any social media platform, okay? Like, I can't imagine being caught in 4K replying to them on such a frequent basis. I've had threats and horrible things sent to me by them, sure, but I'm not like cutely replying or like leaving them little messages in my comments. Like, what are you doing? And this is like not some silly little accident. Elon Musk is routinely and repeatedly interacting with these accounts despite the backlash. And these are just the ones that made headlines. These are just the ones that I've found since he acquired Twitter in like the 3 days that I spent researching this. But guys, he went to Auschwitz. He's not anti-Semitic. He visited Auschwitz. He's friends with Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, after these anti-Semitic comments, Elon was facing a lot of heat online, and he was invited to Auschwitz, which, for those that don't know, it's the site of the largest concentration camps during Nazi Germany, an invite which he refused initially. I guess the heat got pretty bad because eventually he did go when he was checking his factory in Berlin. This was not a dedicated visit, mama. This was a PR stunt. But then he bookended this lovely photo op with this delightful quote. In the circles that I move, I see almost no anti-Semitism. And you know, there's this old joke, I've got this one Jewish friend. No, I have like 2/3 of my friends are Jewish. I have twice as many Jewish friends as non-Jewish friends. I'm like Jewish by association. I'm aspirationally Jewish. Girl. You're still doing that I have a Jewish friend thing. Just because you have more than one Jewish friend doesn't mean you're not doing the I have a Jewish friend thing. That's just like that. You're just literally doing that. You still have no authority on this, you fucking moron. People have told you that you've been anti-Semitic. Your platform has been promoting anti-Semitic content. You've lost multi-billion-dollar advertisers because of the Nazi content on your platform, dude. You have learned fucking nothing. Be so for real right now. Elon also hides behind his relationship with the ADL and his relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu, who has also participated in anti-Semitism and Holocaust revisionism. Benji himself said that Hitler exterminated the Jews and orchestrated one of the most egregious historical periods in history because a Palestinian told him to do it. And it's not a surprise that so many Jews have come out in direct opposition of the state of Israel and the ADL for their complacency with Elon's anti-Semitism, especially after this incident.
I'm going to be very vulnerable on here and say that I'm Jewish. Maybe I'll regret in 6 months. I don't fucking know. I pushed on my story that I fucking hate Elon Musk and that he's a dirty bastard and an anti-Semitic piece of shit, because he is. And he did the Hail Hitler last night. And I had a fellow Jew who I went to college with and was in Jewish clubs with me slide up on my story and say that he's not anti-Semitic because he wants to release Israeli soldiers from Hamas. Me personally, I don't feel like those things cancel each other out, because when you salute Hitler in a room full of Nazis, that means that you want Jews dead. And he said, no, he's on the spectrum, and that wasn't Hail Hitler. In the most respectful way possible, stand up, Jewish Americans. Stand up. Have a fucking backbone, because when a Nazi looks you in the face and says, I fucking hate you, I want you fucking dead, you fucking Jew, because you're, to them, scum of the earth and you control the media or whatever fucking bias they have against you, they're not gonna look at you and think, oh, well, that's the Jew that likes Elon Musk. That's the Jew that said that he didn't hail Hitler. It doesn't matter that you're posting on Twitter. It doesn't matter that you're standing up for him on Instagram. It doesn't matter that you're doing any of that shit. Stand the fuck up.
Elon also has this obsession with pronatalism. It's why he has 100 kids that don't talk to him anymore. This is a movement that is very popular in Silicon Valley, but is also often tied to like eugenics and aligns with the technocratic views of Elon's grandfather, who he has been outspoken about admiring dearly. This guy was incredibly racist and anti-Semitic as well, and supported technocracy. And for those who don't know about technocrats or technocracy, it is the government or control of society or industry by an elite of technical experts. And on the surface, it seems like a good idea, right? Having experts that run the world. But when your ruling class is only the most elite minds, it's probably going to skew towards incredibly wealthy people who had access to education and resources that most people don't. And the policies are going to be skewed towards benefiting those groups of people. Elon's father, who has an estranged relationship with his son, is very outspoken about his father-in-law's anti-Semitic views.
Her parents, by the way, were very fanatical in favor of apartheid. This is quite interesting. Her parents came to South Africa from Canada because they sympathized with the Afrikaner government. They used to support Hitler and all that sort of stuff. But they didn't know, obviously, I don't think they knew what the Nazis were doing. But they in Canada, they were in the German party in Canada, and they sympathized with the Germans.
Yeah.
So when the Afrikaners government came into power here in 1948, then May's father, who was quite an interesting guy, he was a very good pilot, he said he wants to be with the Afrikaners because he agrees with apartheid, you see. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And he came out here with his family.
When Elon talks about his grandfather, though, it's like he's this action hero. He has a great deal of admiration for him and never makes a point to critique or even add in the caveat that he doesn't support his grandfather's views on marginalized groups. I mean, Elon grew up in apartheid South Africa, for fuck's sake. Like, that wealth was built on legalized racial segregation and oppression. I'm not saying that people can't change, or that you can't grow and learn after benefiting from a cruel and oppressive system. I'm not saying that. I just haven't seen any evidence of that happening with Elon Musk. He's still singing the same tired songs. And if none of this is convincing you, I have one more ask. Okay, then why didn't he say anything? Every fucking news network under the sun was talking about this for days. Why didn't he denounce it? Tons of alt-right people voiced their support of it. Why didn't he denounce it?
Whether or not this was on purpose, the reason it's hard for many people on the left to believe that it was an accident is because he isn't disavowing all of the white supremacist groups that are currently using it to say Hail Trump. The normal thing to do if this was an accident would be to apologize for how it looks, because we can all recognize what it looks like. Other countries had to censor it. And so it would have been much more believable if the narrative was, I'm sorry for how it looks, I didn't mean for it to be that way, because everything that this symbolizes is what I'm against. But they're going with this plausible deniability thing so they don't have to explicitly say that they're against all of these groups that are rallying behind this image right now. They're saying, oh, it wasn't that, it's just his autism and he was excited. And whether or not that's true, it doesn't change the fact that they are not disavowing these groups that are using this image. Side note, there's a reason why these groups don't use all of the images that people are manipulating with screenshots to look similar to this, because the context of all of those is not the same. Again, whether or not we want to believe this was a purposeful one, it did look like an actual salute, whereas all of those other politicians are either in the middle of saying goodbye, just raising their hands, being like, oh, goodbye, or in the middle of a speech where they're constantly moving their hand like this, reaching out to the crowd. They're not doing a salute motion, which is what was happening here.
Instead of apologizing or clarifying that that's not what he was trying to do, he put out this tweet making a bunch of Nazi jokes. This was liked by over 250,000 people and seen by 48 million. Since this tweet, the ADL has actually woken the fuck up and condemned his behavior. The ADL condemned Elon Musk for making a series of Nazi-related jokes on X, calling it, quote, inappropriate and offensive to make light of the, quote, singularly evil Holocaust. Just days earlier, the ADL defended Musk over a awkward hand gesture. If I read awkward hand gesture one more fucking time, I'm gonna lose it. He made during an inauguration event that drew comparison to a Nazi salute, saying, quote, all sides should give each other a bit of grace. In the days since, Musk has mocked media outlets and liberals who fanned the controversy, accusing them of a dirty tricks campaign to smear him over his support of Trump. And my question is, genuinely, what would it take for right-wing people to call him a Nazi? I'm genuinely curious. Let me know in the comments if you've made it this far. What would it take? What would he have to do to convince you that he's a Nazi? I have to know. And I've seen it on the Democratic side too. Like, some of them refuse to believe it. Hell, plenty of left-leaning news sources wasted their breath calling this an awkward hand gesture. Are we really giving this man, with years of being publicly anti-Semitic, the benefit of the doubt here? As we head into this administration, like I said, we need journalists to be braver than this. Like, I need you to be braver, now more than ever. And I know we don't want to believe that we're in the situation that we're in. We want to believe that we're better than this as a society. We want to believe that something like the Holocaust could never happen again. Unfortunately, we're not. Genocides have continued to happen since World War II. And in the US, we have carefully skirted the line between patriotism and nationalism, and we just keep moving further towards the bad one. To stop it, we need to become intolerant of it. It needs to be made completely unjustifiable. We need to make clear that this behavior is not welcome in our country. I'm not trying to doomify the situation or say that we're cooked or anything. Like, I don't want to say that, because there are absolutely steps that we can take, right? I'm just telling you what is in front of me. I'm telling you what is in front of all of us. Nothing exists in a vacuum. You exist in the context of, what's the fucking quote? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you. Have we forgotten the coconut tree so quickly?
My ex-husband was in the Proud Boys, so I know a dog whistle when I see one. And a few weeks ago, Mr. Musk made his profile picture on Twitter Pepe the Frog and made a reference to Kyrgyzstan. And if you don't know the significance of Pepe the Frog and Kyrgyzstan, basically it's a frog meme that originated on 4chan, where, you know, only the best and brightest come up with the most brilliant ideology. By and large, probably the most recognizable of all of the right-wing media, specifically in the Proud Boys circles, and the made-up country Kyrgyzstan, that's where Pepe is from. You know, that's the meme lore. It's so significant that people bring Kyrgyzstan flags, or brought them, I guess, to Proud Boy rallies. I know this because my ex-husband himself purchased a Kyrgyzstan flag with money from our shared bank account. Yeah, that happened. Anyways, so that's the association. There's a clear tie. So when I saw him do that, I was like, oh, I see what this is. He's letting the boys know that he's their guy, and he's in on the joke. You know what the joke is? Piss people off and then point the finger at them. And what I mean by that is, when I saw the salute that was given at the inauguration, I saw what it was. We all saw what it was, and we interpreted it correctly, because that's how we were intended to interpret it. You can say it's a Roman salute. Okay, that's still a fascist salute. It's reactive abuse. You know, when people push you and push you and push you, and they provoke you to the point where you just snap, as anyone does. When they get that reaction, that's when they point the finger at you, dismiss everything that they did to push you to that point, and say, you're fucking crazy. Like, do you hear yourself right now? You're gonna tell me that the wealthiest man in the world is one of the good guys? Guys, are we reading books? Like, the rich guys are not the good guys.
I've also heard some people, and this is a wild take, to just ignore him. He's trolling, just ignore him. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna ignore the wealthiest person on the planet doing a fucking Nazi salute on a global stage during the inauguration of a misogynistic, white supremacist president who spent his inauguration speech talking about the golden age of America while also spouting Hitlerian rhetoric about immigrants, queers, and trans people. This is not some asshole from your high school begging for attention online. Elon Musk has been saying this shit for years. In addition to the anti-Semitism, he's said horrible shit about women, trans people, people of color, immigrants, despite being an immigrant himself, which is also wild, like, and also relying on immigrants for cheap labor in his workforce.
She doesn't even go here.
Do you even go to this school?
No, I just have a lot of feelings.
Like, I'm begging y'all that are going to be fighting me in the comments to use the smallest amount of critical thinking. I'm begging you to connect these dots. We don't have the privilege of looking at this as an isolated incident, because it's not. Stay focused. But we hate Nazis. That's like the defining characteristic of America.
Once we're in enemy territory, as a bushwhacking guerrilla army, we're going to be doing one thing and one thing only: killing Nazis.
They were the ultimate evil in every one of our history classes. Their symbolism and rhetoric was regularly used in fiction to depict the absolute bad guys, the worst of the worst, the ultimate evil that they are. But I think because we have deified this evil to an extent, because the Holocaust was evil of epic proportions, it can be hard to conceptualize that level of evil becoming normalized again, because surely we would recognize it, right? Surely we would recognize it blooming in our own backyard. And when we think of the Holocaust, we think of concentration camps. We think of the most extreme tragedies, right? We don't always think about the stuff that led up to that. We don't think about the scapegoating of minority groups, specifically immigrants, people of color, trans people, queer people. We don't always talk about how Hitler criminalized homosexuality and looted and burned an entire academic institute that specialized in research on queer people and trans people. That's right, if you hate queer people and trans people, you have something in common with the Nazis. Remember that. We don't always talk about the misinformation, or that they were promoting lies and propaganda themselves. We don't always talk about the racism against Black Germans, about the racism against the Romani people. Is any of this sounding familiar? We're here, gang, but we don't have to be there yet. We can stop this right now, but we have to be loud and brave and say that this is fucking unacceptable and vile. But in the words of Hassan,
If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and sig heils like a duck, that duck's a Nazi, okay? What are we doing?
you can only have so many coincidental oopsies before people start calling you a Nazi. Sorry. You've said all the Nazi things, you've done the trademark Nazi thing. You've done it, you did the thing. But frankly, we can spend all day debating on whether or not Elon Musk intended to do a Nazi salute, right? And no matter what I say here, or what the subtext might be, someone will always disagree with me, because Elon hasn't confirmed or denied it. It's Schrodinger's salute. We may never know, right? But more importantly, that doesn't fucking matter. Because of his actions on a world stage, alt-right movements have taken hold of this as a win, and all of this will just embolden and empower these hateful groups, whether he intended it or not. Many extremist groups on Telegram, including those based in other countries, celebrated Musk's gesture, clearly identifying it as a Roman salute and elaborating on its significance. The Telegram channel for the Swedish white nationalist fight club Jim 14 called the salute a, quote, powerful symbol that, quote, shows clearly that we are now entering a different path in the West. Users posting in the Elon Musk thread on QB Forums, a web forum whose users harass and bully online personalities, also recognized the gesture as a Roman salute. There, some users changed their profile picture to animated versions of the salute and referred to the gesture as, quote, literally sig heiling. Christopher Polhaus, leader of the neo-Nazi blood tribe who uses the alias Hammer online, wrote on Telegram, I don't care if this was a mistake. I'm going to enjoy the tears over it. John Minadeo II, leader of the neo-Nazi group Goyim Defense League, tweeted that the salute represented an example of, quote, white power, and an example of, quote, how white people are going to awaken in 2025. If we look at the last 10 years of our country, the book bans, the scapegoating of immigrants, the demonizing of trans and queer people, the misinformation, the relentless propaganda, it's giving Hitlerian, kids. It's looking Hitlerian. And I'm glad that there's been so much pushback online. I want to tell you to keep going. I think first and foremost, make sure you're getting your information from sources that are trustworthy. Sources from academics, sources that are verified, sources that are based in fact, not in fear-mongering and hate. Our world has seen this all before. And if we're seeing it again, it's going to take collaboration, education, and kindness to fight it. It was George Orwell who wrote in his novel 1984. Yes, I'm citing 1984. It's important. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. Thank you for being here. As always, I have Rwan's GoFundMe linked below. She was supposed to attend university this year, but Israel bombed her home and her school out of existence. If you're not able to donate, that's okay. Make sure to leave a like and a comment for the algorithm, because there's got to be someone on this godforsaken app that can give $1 or $2. Season 2 of my D&D campaign, where all the ad revenue goes directly to Palestinian families, will hopefully be released sometime in February. Westerly Academy follows 3 students, and it is a story about friendship, about magic, about daddy issues, and so much more. I'm so excited to be getting back into it, and I know you're all gonna love it too. It's for a really great cause. Season 1 is posted on the live tab on my channel. Make sure to check it out. And of course, be sure to check out our sponsor Aura in the description to support the channel. I would not be able to spend as much time on scripts and research and editing without them. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. Please take care of yourselves. Bye.